Hello my friends and welcome back to another Baldur's Gate 3 build guide. Hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be covering one of the most broken combos in the game, the one-shot Lightning Lord. This build is in fact so powerful that honestly I wouldn't recommend playing the game through with it because it will simply one-shot pretty much every enemy in the game, and so you'll actually lose out on a lot of the fun and challenge of the game if you play this build all the way through. But it's so cool and so powerful that I definitely wanted to cover it. I'm using Gale as the example character because this is, at core, a wizard build, and he's the wizard of the party, so let's do that. And he also already has some of the spells that we want access to for this build to work. Let's just jump right into it and start building the one-shot Lightning Lord. So, this build is based around a spell that is, honestly, outside of this context, a pretty bad spell, and that spell is Witch Bolt. Witch Bolt is pretty inefficient damage, but it has two things that are going for it in the context of this build. One, it's lightning damage, which will become very important later. Two, actually three things going for it. Two, it's an attack roll, which means that it doesn't in fact tell you in this tooltip, but because it's an attack roll, that means that it can critically hit. And three, it scales very well with upcasting. It's only 1d12 damage at level 1, but if you upcast it, it gets an extra d12 of damage every level you upcast it. So a level 6 Witch Bolt is doing 6d12, putting it pretty close to on par with level 6 spells like Chain Lightning in terms of damage. But since it's an attack roll, it can critically hit. Alright, let's start building the character. We're going to start by taking a level of Sorcerer, and the leveling order for this build is actually going to be pretty important. The build will not come online until level 4, so you're probably going to want to play something else until 4th level, but starting at level 4, the core combo of the build comes online, and you should be able to start one-shotting pretty much every enemy that you see. The reason we take Sorcerer first is that Sorcerers have Constitution save proficiency, and since you will be concentrating on spells frequently with this build, that's very important. Secondly, there's a kind of esoteric corner case that requires us to take the levels in this order, which I'll talk about when we take our 3rd level. For our stat spread, we are going to go with a pretty weird-looking one, so bear with me for a moment here. We are not actually going to max Charisma, we're going to max Intelligence because this build is going to use the fact that wizards can learn spells of any level in order to, with even only one level of wizard from scrolls in order to learn their high-level spells. And we're going to take 16 Constitution, as almost all of my builds do, 12 Wisdom, and 14 Charisma. I recommend for this build that you rely on the Gloves of Dexterity for your dexterity, although you may wish to put a couple points in dex early on before you get the Gloves of Dexterity, but this build is going to want to wear those in order to maximize your initiative and so on later on. For our subclass, because this is a lightning build, we are of course taking Storm Sorcery, and for our spell selection, we are going to work on taking spells with Sorcerer that don't require saving throws or attack rolls. So Sorcerer is going to provide our utility spells. So for example, we can take Shield and Enhanced Leap or Expeditious Retreat at level 1, something along those lines. As long as you aren't taking spells that require a save or an attack roll, you'll be fine because we're maxing Intelligence over Charisma. For our cantrip selection, same rule applies, you just don't want ones that require an attack roll or a saving throw, so take utility cantrips like Minor Illusion, Mage Hand, Friends, and let's say True Strike, just to annoy everyone. Your skills don't matter, although if you are a human like Gale, you can get access to Stealth, which will allow you to gain advantage on your Witch Bolt attack rolls. That can be very useful. Starting every combat in Stealth is definitely helpful for this build. At level 2, we're going to branch out, and we're going to take Cleric, and the Cleric domain that we're going to take is Tempest domain. So you actually don't want to select Fog Cloud with your Sorcerer levels, because you'll get that anyways from your Cleric domain. This also gives you access to Heavy Armor, which makes you pretty defensible even without high dexterity, although you'll get high dexterity later on from the Gloves of Dexterity. For our deity, I mean, it's Gale, so we should probably say Mistra, right? But it doesn't matter otherwise. And for our cleric cantrips, again, you're looking for utility cantrips like Guidance, Resistance, and Light, stuff like that, rather than ones that allow for saving throws, because our wisdom is low. For your prepared spells, the important one is to have prepared is Create or Destroy Water, and you can start to see where the core combo of this build is coming in. When an enemy is wet, every fanfiction writer's dream, they take double damage from lightning spells. That means that we are able to double the damage of our witch bolts whenever we cast Create or Destroy Water on an enemy. As a sorcerer, we're going to get access to Quicken Spell, meaning that we can cast this as a bonus action before firing off our lightning spells and doubling the damage of our lightning spells. Incredibly powerful already, but it only gets better. For our second prepared spell, you can take something like Healing Word, just always useful to have. Finally, at level 3, we are going to branch out into our third level and take a level in Wizard. Wizards learn spells from scrolls, and they base what spells they can learn off of their total caster level, not their total wizard level, their total liver level. I don't know why I stumbled over that. With a level in Wizard at level 3, we can now learn second level spells. So this will allow us to learn and prepare high level spells throughout this build. Mostly this won't matter because this build is going to be casting Witch Bolt at pretty much with all of its spell slots, Witch Bolt and Create Water. But the Wizard spells I'll give you access to good utility spells, as well as the higher level lightning spells, which have some use cases as well. For our spell selection, of course, we need to make sure that we learn Witch Bolt, although it looks like my Gale already knows it, but you'll want to select it here, and then you're going to want to take any spells that you need access to, like Magic Missile, like Grease, the ones that give the opponents an option to save against them are very useful to be able to take from your wizard levels. It does look like Gale has already learned Witch Bolt from a scroll, which is why it isn't showing up in this menu, but you should select it at this level. For your other spells, it doesn't matter so much. Obviously, some of this will be based on what you've found scrolls for, but of course we're going to want to make sure that we have access to Shield, though we do have that from our Sorcerer levels as well. At level 4, we take our second level in Cleric, and the reason that we want to take Wizard last, so I should mention this as well, is that when you cast a spell from a scroll or item, the save DC or attack roll for that spell is based on the casting stat of the last new class you took. If that doesn't make any sense, don't worry, it just doesn't make any sense. That's how things work in Baldur's Gate. So by taking Wizard third, we set our casting stat for items to Intelligence, meaning that when we later are using a very important item to this build, we will cast off of Intelligence for that item rather than Wisdom or Charisma, and so we're raising Intelligence as much as possible. That's why we also take Witch Bolt with our Wizard levels rather than our Cleric or Sorcerer levels, so that the hit roll from that is based off of our Intelligence. Alright, second level Cleric, we get access to Destructive Wrath. This lets you use your Channeled Divinity whenever you deal lightning damage to deal maximum damage. And, of course, when the enemy is wet, this deals double maximum damage. Since we're rolling d12s, maximum damage is 12 per level of our Witch Bolt, and then you double that. So already, that is going to be, even at level 3, that's going to be just 48 damage right off the bat, because you're rolling 2d12 with a level 2, or at level 4, you're rolling 2d12 with a level 2 spell slot, and then doubling it because of the enemy being wet. So that is going to be 48 damage using Channeled Divinity, or 96 damage if you roll a critical hit, or can guarantee a critical hit using, for example, Hold Person from an ally. Already you can see where the amount of damage that this build does starts to get out of hand, but it only, again, gets better from here. At this level, we're going to go back into Sorcerer because we want to gain more sorcery points. Sorcery points are going to be pretty important for this build later on. In particular, when we get level 2 Sorcerer, we now have access to Twin Spell, and with our... which we can't yet twin a level 3 Witch Bolt because we're only a level 2 Sorcerer, but a level 2 twinned Witch Bolt. Remember, each of these is dealing 48 damage. Well, that's 96 damage. Or, with double critical hits, that's going to be, what's that, 192 damage from a single spell slot, and that's with a level 2 spell. And as we level it up, we're going to be able to twin higher and higher leveled slots of Witch Bolt for incredibly high damage output. We also take Distant Spell just because it's the best of these other meta magics. For our second spell, we're going for our spell selection here, again, just focus on taking utility spells, anything that you don't have access to that you think you might need. Of course, we might take something like Disguise Self. This build, because you get decent charisma, actually does make a decent party face, so it's totally reasonable to take that. At level 3 Sorcerer, we now get access to Quicken Spell, allowing us to do everything in one turn. So now you can cast a Quickened Create Water to get the enemy wet before in the same turn, as you then fire off a Twinned Witch Bolt, once you have enough sorcery points to be able to do that. That's going to allow you to do your whole combo in a single turn, basically one-shotting any enemy that's on the field. For our spell selection, again, you probably want to take something like Misty Step, just utility spells are very important to have. Now we go Sorcerer for the whole rest of the way. We take a feat and take the ability improvement to boost our intelligence. That makes our hit rolls with our Witch Bolts even better. And for our spell selection, again, just take utility spells like Darkness, Knock, something like that. This will be somewhat based on what scrolls you've found for Wizard, because of course you can still learn all of these spells from scrolls as a Wizard. For your cantrip selection, because this is a Sorcerer cantrip, we don't need Shocking Grasp. Shocking Grasp, even though it's lightning themed, is not that important for this build, but it is kind of nice just for melee actions, but because it's based on your charisma, you probably want to get that from Wizard if you're going to take it, so we'll just take Blade Ward here. Level 5 Sorcerer gets you access to Counterspell and Haste, so you can replace something else that you learned with one of those. These are both highly useful utility spells, so definitely recommend having access to them. And Haste can also give you a fun combo where you haste yourself, you quicken haste on yourself, and then have 2 actions. You can't use haste in the same turn that you are using Witch Bolt, because Witch Bolt is also concentration, so don't make that mistake. It will knock you out of haste and you'll stun yourself, but you can use haste and then fire off a lightning bolt in the same turn. Potions of Speed are also very useful for this build, for a reason I'll show you later on. At Sorcerer level 6, you also get the Heart of the Storm ability, which does some additional damage every time you cast one of a lightning spell, which you're going to do frequently, and gain resistance to lightning and thunder damage, which is quite useful at certain points in the game. We can just continue to take utility spells like Protection from Energy or Flight. Again, we're mostly leveling Sorcerer at this point just to gain access to more sorcery points, because it makes our combos more consistent. Because twinning Witch Bolt is so core to this build, you need as many sorcery points as you can get to make that work very well. Here, again, utility spells, same story. We can take something like Greater Invisibility. Level up again, and we get to add our intelligence once more, maxing out our to hit roll with Witch Bolt. And we'll take, let's say, I don't know, Stone Skin, something like that, Dimension Door. At this point, you should have access to pretty much every spell in the game because you've been learning them as a wizard, so what you're taking as your sorcerer spells don't matter as much. Just take them any spell that you know you're always going to want access to that doesn't have a save DC. And finally, at Sorcerer level 5, you can take something like Wall of Stone. That's very useful in some encounters and just very nice to have. And we max out at 9 sorcery points. So let's talk about the core combo of this build and items. So the reason that we want to take Wizard last is that we get access to Markaheshkir, which you can find in Act 3. And when equipped, this will allow you to cast Chain Lightning, the level 6 lightning spell, once per short rest, once you have set it to once you have set its ability to lightning. Having done that, let me set that up, which is kind of annoying to do, actually. Need to go to Common, add this to Custom here. And then once we attune this to Lightning, you gain additional damage, lightning damage, equal to your proficiency bonus. Already very nice, because that's going to increase our damage very slightly, but every little bit counts, especially when we're doubling or occasionally quadrupling it. And we get access to Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. Oh, we cast Bolt of Doom. That's really funny, because this counts as a lightning ability, so we are... when we cast Chain Lightning, we... or when we cast this, we trigger our Storm Sorcerer power. That's actually really funny. But anyways, we get access to Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt from Markaheshkir, giving us additional casts of these lightning spells. Chain Lightning we can maximize with our Channel Divinity action and do a whole bunch of additional damage. So let's take a look at the core combo of the build, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what else you can do with it. So if we enter turn-based mode, what I'm going to do is drink a Potion of Speed as a bonus action. Or actually, we would want to do that ahead of time. So I'm going to drink a Potion of Speed. And then we'll enter turn-based mode. Then we're going to cast Quickened Create Water. So we're going to Quicken, Create Water on, let's say, these two. And then we still have 2 actions left. So we're going to cast Twinned, Witch Bolt, which I have to prepare. There we go. All right, come on. Witch Bolt, which we will twin. Notice that these both have the wet condition. These characters both have the wet condition, and then we can activate Destructive Wrath. That's 152 damage, or 150 damage to each of them. I actually don't know why it did different damage. That's kind of funny. Oh, because Lae'zel's got armor equipped that reduces incoming damage by 2. But you can see that that did just 150 flat damage, because we maximized the damage and doubled it because they're wet. And we could do even better than that if we had rolled a critical hit, or if we had increased the damage, or if we had guaranteed a critical hit in some way. Because this is an attack roll, we can use something like the Luck of the Far Realms, Illithid Power, or Hold Person or Hold Monster from an ally to guarantee a critical hit, turning that 150 damage into 300. That's going to one-shot pretty much everything in the game, but we also still have a second action, so if anything happens to survive, you can reactivate Witch Bolt on whatever is targeted for additional damage. Now, the reactivated Witch Bolt is not going to be as high of a level, but it's still going to be a bunch of additional damage, because it doesn't maintain the level at which you cast Witch Bolt for reasons I don't entirely understand, but nevertheless, it's still going to be an additional pile of damage, or we could have used a Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning in addition to that for even more damage. So anything that survives the initial burst of 300 damage, of which I think there's like 2 or 3 enemies in the game that can do that at all, you can then pile on at minimum 100 or so more damage. We're doubling a Chain Lightning spell, so on average, because you're not going to be able to maximize it a second time, because you've already used your Channel Divinity, but, oh god, the noises are really getting to me there. You are going to maximize Chain Lightning or have Chain Lightning not maximized, but that's still an additional 45 average damage from 10d8 damage, doubled to 90 damage, meaning, and then it will split to many enemies as well, so you're going to be dealing something like 400 or 500 damage to 2 enemies in a single round of combat. Basically, there's nothing that can survive that, so this build will one-shot every single enemy in the game unless they are immune or resistant to lightning damage. If they're just resistant, then you can cancel out that resistance by making them wet, which makes them vulnerable, so then they take full damage. They don't take the doubled damage, but they do take full damage from it, and you are going to be able to one-shot pretty much anything that's not completely immune to lightning damage. There's a couple combos that you can use with allies as well that make this even better. For example, the Water Myrmidon form from a Druid ally or from a Conjure Elemental spell can cast the Healing Mist, so that's an easy way to apply wet. We already have one way to do it with a Quickened Create Water, but it definitely will allow you to do so as well. And of course, remember that even in addition to this combo, you're also just a fully featured wizard with access to Quicken and Twin spell, so you can do all of the things that normal wizards can do while also having access to the incredible power of this one-shot combo. As for itemization, the only really important thing is the Gloves of Dexterity. Markahesh gear, of course, does lots of extra damage. You're going to want Potions of Speed to allow you to reactivate Witch Bolt or cast a second spell. If there's in the rare event that there's a fight where 300 initial burst damage is not enough, then the Potions of Speed let you do that additionally. And anything that increases your to-hit roll or spell save DC is very useful as well. So things that increase your bonus to attack rolls and spell save DCs, like this Robe of the Weave, are very powerful as well. Other than that, winning initiative is always good, so items that increase your initiative, but for the most part, this build is actually pretty gear independent. Also, remember that you do have access to heavy armor and shields because you're a Tempest Cleric, so you can wear any armor or clothing in the game, whatever has the best utility at that point for you. Alright, my friends, I think that's pretty much all there is to it. This build is really just an incredible way to one-shot every enemy in the game. With 300 initial burst damage from a critical hit, you are going to kill everything, and you get to do it all while being a fully functional wizard. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, if you have, do please take the time to, leave a comment, like the video, and of course you can subscribe to my channel for more of this and other strategy game content. Cheers, my friends. I'll catch you next time.